Facebook. Hello, my name is Harriton Botkin. We're on to the second part of this program. And this time we would like to discuss development of mankind. It does not mean I'm leaving the Philippine scenario or talking outside of it any longer. But because the Philippines is part of a global community, it is quite important to talk about where is the global community going. About, if I'm not mistaken, just a couple of days ago, Xi Jinping, he's about to get the overwhelming vote again for his second 5-year supremacy or leadership, bringing China into the modern world. The development of mankind was what he was talking about in his 3.5-hour speech to his 2,300 leaders of the Communist Party in China. Butch,
Yes.
tell us, how do you assess? I have not, you have read it, the long speech. Na ano ko na, ang haba eh. Mahaba.
It was a 3-hour speech.
Oh, everyone was nahihirapan. Even the people that were there who have a stake in interest, nahihirapan sila. And took them days to digest as well. Where is that going? Before I would like to punch holes into it, because I do have some little issues that are involved with that.
Well, in very, very brief summary, the first part of the speech talked about the history of China and how it was oppressed by different European countries, actually, and all the way into forcing it into the Opium War, and then them having to fight and having lost certain territories, and so many millions have been killed by the pressure from the British for them to open up for their opium trade, which they resisted, and so on and so forth. And then now they reached this point of a new era for China, and the development of being able to rise from the ashes in a very, very short period.
50 years.
Actually, Deng Xiaoping was only, 34, 35 years ago.
Correct.
Because it was Deng Xiaoping
That's where it
that
started,
changed,
yeah.
right? And
Deng Xiaoping was with Gorbachev at the same time, correct?
Yes, a little before. Yeah, halos pareho.
Halos pareho at the time. The world was changing.
Right. And Deng Xiaoping was a liberal-minded at that time, and they considered him right. No?
Communism, single authority, but capitalism.
Right. He was a
Open capitalism.
modified communism or something like that. Remember, even
Which I find difficult until now.
Yes, yes,
but to comprehend.
it's difficult because when you're trying to run 1.2 to 1.3 million people,
Billion people.
a billion people, then
Yeah.
then you're going to have to modify, and you cannot put it in a box, right?
In
You
other
have
words, hindi pwedeng democracy.
Hindi pwede, and then at the same time, hindi rin pwedeng masyadong tight, or else babagsak kayo as what had happened before.
Kay
And,
Mao.
Mao decided on the Cultural Revolution to take out any kind of influence of Cultural Revolution, tawag nila. No?
He took land from the haves and
Yeah.
gave it to the have-nots,
Have-nots.
which not necessarily prospered.
Prospered. And not only that, he took out knowledge.
Ayun.
He took out, he burned the books.
He burned the books.
Everything, including violins for cultural
Art.
art
Even
and all
art.
that. Sinunog nila, so that they kept the people dumb in order to be able to control them. Now, siyempre, the resilience of human beings cannot. No? Eventually, you start looking for creativity.
Information,
And eto yung finifeed ni Deng Xiaoping. Deng Xiaoping comes in and introduces a new concept wherein China will gradually open up to the world, no? Because it's inside the world, and therefore it needs
To be part of the world.
Part of the world.
But it failed when it came to 79, the Tiananmen Square.
Well, not that it failed. The Tiananmen Square was Western inspired.
Okay. Sige nga.
You know
Different
how they
point
do
of view.
it.
Sige,
no?
sige,
It does not sprout like that. There has to be an injection of rebellion and democracy and so on and so forth. And there will be. No?
Ibig sabihin, nakialam na ng mga Amerikano.
Well,
Kaya naging ganon.
Actually, more the British. No?
Okay.
They were able to penetrate because they were looking at Hong Kong because they will have to surrender Hong Kong, no?
Which they did.
Which they
Had to.
had to, right?
Yes.
Now, the development of China economically started about 20 to 25 years ago,
Yes.
only.
Only, yeah.
Only. If you go to Shanghai now, you will see that it is probably one of the number one cities in the world. Right?
Malaban na sa New York, you know.
Ay, nako, much better than New York. I'm telling you. I mean, I've just gone to New York, and it's U.S. infrastructure is deteriorating.
It is deteriorating.
It is collapsing. No.
New York.
Just to give you
Yeah.
an idea about the difference, you know, here is China. Their fast rail system, their trains travel at 300, 400 kilometers per hour.
Faster than Japan's. Yes.
Oh, yes. And the fastest of the U.S. Amtrak is 90 kilometers per hour. Right?
No, deteriorating na nga.
Masyadong
Even
behind
Obama
na.
brought
Right.
that up.
Yeah. Now, this is what's important. Now, Xi Jinping's speech, he goes through the history and then says, it is not just, we should not look at China's development and be happy with it. Because China will be a target of criticism if it is only China that prospers, he says. We must move, because we are capable of doing this, to expand that prosperity to the rest of the world, so that all populations of the world also will become prosperous. This is the development of mankind. We are entering this era, he said, and the main vehicle that will allow us to help in that development is the One Belt, One Road, the Silk Road, the new Silk Road development, which they have already instituted, which is now being participated in by many countries,
Yes.
and supported by Europe and so on and so forth, and through the AIIB, which is
Yes, the
which is
new-
an infrastructure investment bank. You have 80 members of that already from the rest of the world, which will focus on
Sumali na tayo,
infrastructure
di ba?
development. Sumali na tayo.
Sumali na tayo
Yeah.
sa AIIB.
Pero I don't know if we've been able to receive any benefit from it yet, or loans, no? Kasi hindi pa tayo completely paid. Yung parang paluwagan yan. Kailangan magpasok ka.
Kasi
ng-
World Development Bank yan.
Right,
Parang World Bank. Parang
Okay.
ADB.
Yeah. So, if you listen towards that last portion of Xi Jinping's speech, ako, medyo nakakakilabot din eh. No? Hindi sa takot, pero meron palang taong talagang ganito magsalita. Meron palang tao na ang sinasabi na, wag lang tayo,
Lahat tayo.
lahat ng humankind. That's why he referred to mankind's development. No? So, as in contrast, what do you have in contrast? Other countries trying to put down other countries.
My God, pareho lang sa Pilipinas.
Para mamatay, di ba? Gerahin, di ba? And so sabi ko, look at the difference in ideas. No? One, trying to push their hegemony and continue on despite the collapsing financial system. And another saying, no, this is the direction that we should all go, no, towards infrastructure development. What is happening now in the world financial system is the world has printed up so much money, specifically the dollars and the euro, so much that the currency that they printed up through the bailout system is
Hindi
no
kaya.
longer backed up by
hindi kaya.
production, not backed up by anything. Basta pera na lang para kang kenkoy money, right? On the other hand,
Well, they call it quantitative easing.
easing, yeah.
Based on trade.
Oh, ang ganda ng terms, but that is what it is. No?
Yes, yes. Okay, go on.
I call
Kevin.
it kenkoy money,
Ay,
right?
na.
Pero tingnan mo naman ng kabila. Pag meron kang development of infrastructure, which means infrastructure means you're creating a production-oriented economy, right? Your currency whatever currency you have
Will be more used.
will have a backup of goods that you are producing.
Actual goods.
Actual goods. No? Hindi
Hindi
pay,
hangin. Hindi
hangin.
income,
Kaparis,
supposedly.
tinan mo yung Bitcoin, you've ever heard of them?
Ah.
It has nothing. And it proves precisely the reason Bitcoin became a commodity, right? Is because they proved that even the dollar and the euro are the same. They are not backed up by
By anything.
anything, right? Whereas now they're saying we have to change the paradigm, the economic
But
paradigm.
even China is against the Bitcoin, actually.
Of course, because it doesn't, no, backup,
Yeah.
bakit, ba't mo i-exchange yan? Eh, yung
Except the guy
yung-
from Virgin. He's saying, no, invest in Bitcoin. Alam naman niya si Branson. But go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah. But you see the difference now, wherein that proposal is being made. No? Not, and the ones that have been controlling the world, no, the ones that they've been with the kind of system that they have been,
They've never promoted
Yeah.
anything for mankind but for
yeah,
themselves.
and
Specific
are
interests.
trying to destroy that.
Correct.
Even if they will go to war to destroy it, right? So now you've got a
You're
situation.
talking of the Rockefellers? You're talking about
No.
the good old families?
Oh, well, the
Same.
financial oligarchy,
Yeah, the
right?
financial
Yeah.
oligarchy. Same.
And there is a phenomenon in the U.S., a guy named Trump, right? For whatever it's worth, Trump very clearly wants to improve his relationship with China and with Russia, right? And very clearly, too, the CIA, the FBI,
Are not.
some Republicans and most Democrats are against that.
Correct.
They want war, right? The CIA, which is part of what they call the deep state, wants war.
Yes.
They're the ones that want to reestablish the EDCA here,
Correct.
right? And Trump's visit this November to China is extremely important. Why?
And to the Philippines.
And to the Philippines, of course. But I'm looking at it as to what might happen because of that trip to China. Why? Number one, he will officially, most probably, declare that the U.S. is going to participate in the One Belt, One Road concept. That is tremendous because the rest of the other countries
Will
now
follow.
will follow. And they will be more confident in joining. The other is he's going to ask China to participate in rehabilitating the infrastructure of the U.S.
Ayun. Baliktad, ah.
Kasi yung train system, no, yung power system,
Mahina nga eh. It's crumbling.
it's crumbling.
It's crumbling.
And kailangan niya, no? And and I am sure Xi Jinping will agree, no, to get the United States back to where it was before, no, meaning as a
Economic powerhouse.
prosperous country. And when this happens, many people will follow in Europe. Why is this so significant? It is anti-war.
The people working together. Yeah.
If you get these powerful countries together, the leaders, there will be no war.
Let me punch some holes into this. How does he figure in the intrusion on our islands? He says that he is there to defend it. From whom? From what? The Americans? And then there's the word incursion.
Yeah.
How does that play in his speech? Because that was asked, that was criticized of him.
Well, on the China Sea issue, I do not want to look at it as a China versus Philippines, right? Because we have to look back a little in history when there was the Asian pivot. Not too long ago.
8 years ago.
Yeah, this is that's when they announced that 60% of the most powerful
Will be
naval
around
force.
our area.
When you say around our area, not just the Philippines,
ASEAN,
you're
yeah.
also talking about the South China Sea,
Yes,
right?
yes.
If 60% of the most powerful naval force is right there outside, and we are proximate to China
Yes, we
in
are.
that sense, right? What will China do? What is the reason why you're putting all, right? Is it because
tinatakot mo
tinatakot mo
o
kami,
iniikutan mo
or
na
you
kami.
have bad intentions, or you're creating that encirclement,
Okay,
right?
How do you
Saying, now,
rationalize the word incursion to our islands? I realize the fight is against
okay.
America.
Well, because the Americans were there, no, they are not. China is not gonna sit back without
So it's defense.
making.
That's
That
what he
is
says.
why he's saying it's defense,
Defense.
right? And then, but so what do? They get some surrogates, Filipino surrogates and politicians here to go anti-China and come up with saying that China is planning to invade us, no? And that they're going to take us over, and we will be overrun by the Chinese People's Liberation
that
Army
didn't fly.
and so on.
Trillanes and all his cares and
Yeah,
Noy,
and-
it didn't fly.
And Goles and
Yeah,
everybody.
well, okay.
Okay, so no, that's not
Let's
gonna
not
fly.
forget Carpio.
Yeah. Yes, Tony Carpio. Kasama na yan. No? Kasi, well, we have conjectures as to why they're doing this, but never mind.
Correct.
So, what will happen? They're not gonna sit back. They don't have the number of aircraft carriers that the U.S. has.
They
No?
have 2 versus 40.
Right.
Yeah.
Versus how many? So they don't have the kind of weaponry and killing machines that the U.S. has. No? Where in the Ohio-class submarines, maybe numbering about 12 to 14 are already in our areas. No? They're actually sometimes docked in Subic.
Yes.
No? Now,
As we've read, yeah.
so this thing is going, and more tension is going to come if and when that happens. Now, thank God for
Xi Jinping's
Xi Jinping's proposition, and actually President Duterte's position.
to open up.
Because when he took that position, whether he knew it or not, it disrupted the plan of encirclement by the U.S. of China. And it created...
Whether he knew it or not is actually the point.
That's it. That's why I said it's a phenomenon, and thank God.
Yeah, it
right?
is a phenomenon.
Yeah. And
I agree with that.
now even Japan, because of the position of the Philippines, is reconsidering its position about changing its
I know, it's the
constitution.
one which
right?
he will be able to do since he's just won
Yeah.
his election.
That's right. No?
Mas malakas na ngayon ipupush niya sa Constitution.
That's
niya.
right. So, maraming developments that are moving the world towards a chance for world
You're
peace.
saying that Xi Jinping, in his direction, in his singular speech, realigned the direction of the world as a whole into working together rather than warring with each other.
Well, he's telling his people and he's telling the rest of the world that this is his intention, right? And we are not preparing for war, but we are preparing for defense. Of course, they're defending their country. But
Ganun din sa Africa, the presence of the Chinese in Africa, the popular support they're getting going in there. So they're being hit for that, whether it comes from America or not.
siyempre, they're the ones that come in. Look at, even with Marawi, look at this situation. The U.S. promises aid. China and Russia don't even promise. They just bring it.
They just bring it. Oh, wala nang salita. Oh,
Wala
I agree.
Andyan na lahat ng
Wala nang
equipment.
salita.
Ano pang kailangan?
Tsaka bago.
Bago.
Hindi used.
Right.
Hindi junk.
Right. And what else? I have enemies now, CPP, NPA, and so on. Okay, here are arms. No, wala na. The U.S., unsolicited, we want to help. All right, what do you want to? They bring in their drones. It's not even ours. They operate their
they
drones.
operate their own.
It's not supposedly to help our people. But if you talk to some colonels, they said they're helping us, but they're also helping the enemy.
Their help. Yan ang problema na.
Yan ang problema. And they, if you talk to these retirees, that some of them are with the CNG, they'll give you real accounts as to what those drones actually do. Rather than make it easy for us, making it more difficult, right? And
It's called control.
tsaka nakakagulat na. Remember, there's talk about ISIS being CIA backed, right? Meron konting truth yata diyan sa mga ganyan rumors, no? So, and then you look at the intention is chaos, no?
Yes.
Then you, parang
Pare-pareho,
things
like-
add up, right?
That was just a number. That's the actual objective, to
Oo.
generate chaos, tyranny,
Yes. And in a chaotic situation, that's where they
flourish.
flourish.
Butch, well, at the end of the program, alam mo, dapat nga pala, no? Minsan balikan natin just China, mukhang mas matagal pa yun, ano?
Oo,
Di ba?
oo.
And maybe invite some people from the CNG
Yes.
to, let's use this show as the platform to generate more awareness. After all, it's a
Right.
citizens movement, an advocacy to promote, to unify, to generate an awareness for the current administration, who is democratically elected. Sa mga ayaw makinig, no? 80% and more, yan ang inelect natin. Kung ayaw yung demokrasya, ay sabihin nyo na lang, bakbakan na lang. Di ba? Parang ganun.
That's right,
Butch,
yeah.
your message to our viewers, as in a nutshell, on the China, well, I call it intrusion, incursion, but in their whole holistic approach towards development of mankind.
I think that from a certain viewpoint, the Philippines and the rest of the world is being provided with a great opportunity, the greatest opportunity of probably this century, the opportunity for peace. No? War has always been in our minds as things started to deteriorate politically and economically. Every time there is a major collapse of the world's economic system, a world war ensues. No? And right now, the world financial system is in process of collapse. And again, we're very fearful of a world war. And when the world war starts now, it will be made of nuclear arms, and that will be probably the end of civilization. Now, something had happened in the recent years. Xi Jinping, President Duterte,
Trump.
President Trump, and I have to include President
Putin.
Duterte because kasama siya dito sa nangyayari ngayon. At si President Putin, no? At,
Agreed.
and affecting the situation so much that we now seem to have an alternative to war. Whereas maybe a decade ago, we were not talking about any type of alternatives. We were
Gera
just
lang.
saying gera. Pero ngayon, merong lumalabas na alternative. Why don't we grab it? For the sake, not just of the Filipinos, but for the sake of the whole world. Let us move towards that. Let us not listen to all of this fake news about how bad the
So huwag kayong magbasa ng
somebody is,
Rappler, Vera Files, ABS-CBN, di ba?
Yes. and just move towards that. And look at peace as the most critical issue, the most important issue that all of us want to have. No? Avoid chaos, understand who the enemies are. Thank you.
What's your radio program and what number? On
It's
the AM.
every Sunday on DZXL Radio, 558.
558. That's the
558
first station
AM.
to the left on the
Yeah.
AM band.
From now 7:15 to 9 p.m. every Sunday evening.
Every Sunday,
Yeah.
15.
558 RMN Radio.
Well, I hope you have understood the message we were trying to bring. Twofold. One, the Citizens National Guard, of which you are requested to participate if you are a responsible Filipino patriot, so to speak. And then the bigger picture of the world on how we should look at it rather than looking at the singular option, which was really not an option but total death, which is called war. So seeing both sides, at least we are looking to further mankind, not necessarily to eliminate mankind. Yung mga nag-iisip ng ganyan, kala nila mabubuhay sila kung sila lang ang mga buhay sa mundo nito, mamamatay din sila. And money, you can't even eat it. That's the problem. Products, there will be no one left to make it. There will be nothing, actually, just total perdition. Well, thank you very much. We hope you've enjoyed our program, and I'll see you next week. Thank you, Butch.